The Jay Garvens Show. Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio 105.5 FM and 1240 AM. And now here's your host, Jay Garvens.
Good morning, Southern Colorado. This is Jay, and you're listening to the Jay Garvens Show. I hope you are having a great weekend. We have just a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. I am Jay Garvens, and you're listening to the Jay Garvens Show. Home Mortgage Talk. I am your Southern Colorado Home Mortgage Jedi. We have really fun, lighthearted subjects here on the show. KRDO News Radio is gracious enough to give us this time, and I personally appreciate you for tuning in on a Saturday. You've had a busy week, a Sunday. The weekend is great. We are looking at the first weekend after Super Tuesday for the primary elections. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Today's show is going to be a lot of fun because it is more lighthearted, and it's going to be all about choosing a mortgage broker or banker. What are your options and what to look for? So choosing a mortgage broker or banker is what we're going to talk about during the whole show. Just relax. Always remember you can come back to these archived shows. If you've had a busy weekend, we're going to have some fun. I encourage you to stay tuned in. You always can get a hold of me personally, Jay Garvens. I am the owner of Colorado Springs Home Mortgage Loans and the VA Loan Source. And my direct number is 719-330-1457. That's not a recording. That's not a telemarketer that's going to answer for you. It's not one of my staff members. It's me personally, the owner of the company. So if you have a question or you want to start the loan process, either way, you're going to talk to me live. If you get a message, that just means most likely I am with my wife, Marlo, and my two beautiful children, Asher and Ella. My wife, Marlo, just had her birthday this week. Actually, she had it on Super Tuesday, and we went out and had a great time with Asher and Ellen, Marlo, and I at Old Chicago's, where the kids sang her happy birthday. So if you have a loved one that's got a birthday this week, make sure you tell them that you love them. Make sure you get them a cake. Make sure you sing them happy birthday, whether they get embarrassed or not. They will love and appreciate it. You have your career that you've worked hard at all week. I've got mine. Our kids have school. But when the dust settles, quite sincerely, the only thing that we have that matters at the end of the day, at the end of the year, or at the end of our life is relationships and your kiddos and your parents and your siblings. So, you know, I am not a counseling talk show, but I'm going to tell you, call those individuals today that you love and tell them so. It's great that we're talking about relationships because that's what I'm going to focus on a large part with the mortgage broker and banker. What options you have. I've got a lot of statistics here today, pulling the old Rush Limbaugh shake and hold with the stats. We're going to do some housekeeping first. But before I go into that, I'm going to just remind you throughout the show, you can always go back to this recording. If you do not feel comfortable calling me with questions, or you specifically want to see an archived show, you can go to Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. That's Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. And just look under radio. We have the most recent and archived show. You also can go to KRDO.com. And on the upper tab, you just simply hit the radio. It's going to have your schedule, and then you go in on Saturdays and you click and highlight on the Jay Garvens Show, and you will be able to listen to this show and previous shows. But you also can give me information, questions, start the loan process at that website as well. Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. This week was Super Tuesday, and that's pretty big for the Republican Party this year. Not so much the Democratic Party. I actually found out this week that there was one contender against our president, President Obama. He obviously did not get very far. We have an incumbent president that is very, very interested in going into a second term. It is you, the voter. Colorado, we are a swing state. You are a very important voter and will probably play a key role as to whether our president gets a second term or whether we have a new president. And unless a dramatic event happens that changes things, it looks like Mitt Romney will be the Republican candidate. Rick Santorum, I believe, who in the caucus process won Colorado in our primary, is really falling behind. Newt Gingrich, yay, he got his coveted home state, and that is it. I personally like Newt Gingrich. I think the Contract of America was good. You always can call me personally if you got a comment about that. Santorum, Rick Santorum, he won Oklahoma, North Dakota, and Tennessee. I think he got a total of 84 delegates on Super Tuesday this last week and has a total of 176. I am by nature a very, very conservative capitalist. I don't see myself as political, but I am an individual who believes in the laissez-faire, leave business alone. One of the problems with that is the Founding Fathers stated very clearly the only flaw in our Constitution is the fact that it is assumed to be laid upon a moral foundation, and that's what's lacking in our country. I think you could question the moral foundation. So I'm a very moral person. I'm very spiritual. You will see me quote anecdotes again and again from Pastor Dean Hawk, my pastor at Rock Family Church. If you don't go to church, I encourage you to, not for the friendships, but just for the relationship with, your God, your Savior, Jesus, whoever you call him. That's important. But on Super Tuesday, back to Rick Santorum, who is more conservative. He's just too far behind from Mitt Romney, who got 211 delegates alone on Super Tuesday, has more than 415. The mainstream media, especially MSNBC, is downplaying that. I think Mitt Romney is going to be and will be and can be an amazing, good president. We can get somebody in there with tested business experience. I wish he would be more conservative on social issues of health care and abortion, contraception, but those are my personal views. But I stand behind the party. I'm a registered Republican, but call myself a conservative capitalist. So that's my soapbox there. But that's important. If you're not following the race, please start to. But some other news this week from Fox, from CNN, from Drudge, some important stuff. They actually did some statistics on our corporate tax rate here in the United States. This is very, very interesting because I did not know this, but until this last week, Japan had the highest corporate tax rate in the world at 39.5%. They, as a country, go figure, just lowered that down to 35%, giving United States the coveted title of the highest corporate tax rate in the entire world. So the average of the entire developed world is 25% corporate tax rate. And United States, we now, under this Congress, under this president, has a 39.2% corporate tax rate, which means we are hindering business more than anybody. And that's what I think is so crazy, because our liberal media, the talking heads, will convince you that oil companies are dangerous and greedy. And here, if you know that you're a Democrat, if you're mad at the oil companies for taking a 4% profit off of your gallon of gas, but then understand the government who's taking 40% in tax. I mean, let's get serious with that. How twisted is our world that the media and everybody else can get you totally angry at an oil company because they are so arrogant and take a 4% profit, but then they turn the head. Don't believe in me. Look at the sticker right on your Colorado gas pump that, shows that 40 or 80 cents is taxable right to the government and then some. So taxes on gasoline in the United States are as high as 40% on every gallon. And that's just crazy because our corporate tax rate at 39.2, that's like tying one leg and one hand behind your back with our business, and they are continuing to be competitive. I mean, we're talking with imports, that's one thing, but exports, with selling, with profitability, they got to chop off nearly a 40% chunk to the government. Now, Japan is down to 35%. France is 34.2%. So we're higher than the socialistic France. You have Germany that's at 30%, 30.2%. You have Mexico that's 30%. And then you have our wonderful neighbors to the north, Canada, who's at 27.6%. Now, of course, now that this came up, our president's going to talk about lowering it, and even Congress. But it's an election season. Look at how our president is curing the relations with Israel because it's an election year. That, to me, is a joke. And that's something that's going to carry over into the subject today, the subject of the mortgage broker, mortgage banker, how to choose them, and what are your options. Listen to people to see if they contradict themselves. I want you to listen to me and see if I contradict myself. I don't claim to be a radio guy. I do claim to be an expert in my industry. I do claim that I will reach out and help you personally and keep you up to date on the news, but more importantly, up to date on the most competitive interest rates, the most competitive mortgage programs. I will keep you informed on the real estate and how to buy the best deal and the most security for your family. But if you look and listen to our politicians, you see how their moods change during election years. So the last bit of housekeeping today, I really want to touch on Fannie Mae and Freddie, because this goes into where we're going as a country. I do want to touch a little bit on inflation. And inflation is the sense that I'll mention just once. The government will tell you that we're at about a 3.1% inflation. I want you to Google the American Institute for Economic Research. American Institute for Economic Research, because the government would say our inflation is 3.1%. But if you look at the details, they are taking out all of the big ticket items: houses, furniture, appliance, cars, and computers. So if you go to the American Institute for Economic Research, you'll see that our inflation just last year alone was up and beyond 8%. And that's pretty crazy. And that leads right into prices going up, debt accumulating. Straight ahead, I'm going to be talking about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the debt. What is our taxpayer debt so far? We're going to jump right into that on the next segment, and then get into the mortgage broker and banker. What are your options? You always can get a hold of me personally, and just relax and just enjoy the information. You can always come back to that later in the week by going to Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. Fill out the information sheet or hit the radio tab to just listen to some of this information again. But we've got great information on Freddie and Fannie coming back right after the break. This is Jay Garvens. You're listening to the Jay Garvens Show, KRDO News Radio.
The Jay Garvens Show, Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio, 105.5 FM and 1240 AM. And now here's your host, Jay Garvens.
We are back, and this is exciting weekend here immediately after Super Tuesday. We did a little bit of housekeeping before the break, but right now, today's show is going to be about choosing a mortgage broker and banker. What are your options? And to start that out, let's talk about Fannie and Freddie, the monies that we have available to us. This is fun, but a little bit scary. Many of you are old enough, most of you are old enough to remember back in the late 90s when, the early 1989, 1990, 1991, when George Bush Sr. got into a little trouble with the savings and loan scandals. The media was hanging him up to dry for $5 to $8 billion, and many reports stretch as high as $11 billion of bailout money that we had for those savings and loans to kind of keep in his justifiable mind a stable economy. And today it is just crazy because Fannie and Freddie, we all know, are private companies now taken over and regulated and controlled by the government again. Fannie Mae was established in 1938, go figure, during the last major downturn in the United States, just coming into the Great Depression. The government started it to promote home ownership, and in the 50s and 60s, they transformed it into a profitable company, into the private sector. Freddie Mac was created in 1970, kind of spur competition. That's just a little bit of history. It really did have a great initial goal and concept, but here's the bottom line. Last year alone, in 2011, just last year, Fannie was bailed out by us, by me, by you, $16.9 billion just in 2011. So we wanted to hang a previous president out to dry because he had a 5 to 8, let's call it $11 billion bailout of all the savings and loans. But we've got a $16.9 billion just for Fannie, not even Freddie, just in 2011, and a president and a Congress that refuses to bring these into check. It's on record that the Republican Congress and George Bush wanted to audit and trim back both Fannie and Freddie in the early 2000s, and Congress, which was controlled by the Democrats at the time, said no. But here is our bill. And if you've got questions or comments about this, all during this time, you can call me directly at 719-330-1457. But I'm going to get through this heavy stuff and get into fun stuff. But right now, if you are wondering, Fannie is currently, after 5 years, from 2006 to 2011, which is our 5 years of loss in that company, when houses have been going back to Fannie, that guarantees the loans, and we, the public, and Fannie, the government-controlled company, takes the bill. We have $163 billion alone that Fannie has been bailed out. $163 billion. Now that's compared to 5 to 8 to 11 billion for the entire savings and loan scandal, and this is one company, Fannie, $163 billion. Don't forget about Freddie. Over that same 5-year period, they've got $91 billion. So we've got more than $250 billion, or $250 billion that you, the taxpayer, that's more than $1,300, $1,300 for every single homeowner and renter in the entire country that has got to pay Fannie and Freddie. And all of those houses are still sitting out there. So I'll keep you up to date on that. But that is where the money source is. I will tell you that these sources, one way or another, especially if we have a new administration, are going to dry up. Lending is going to get more difficult, not less difficult, because these two companies will need to cease to exist because they are just what we call in the medical world, because I am a medevac flight for light pilot, that is what we refer to as a sucking chest wound. When you have $250 billion in accumulating debt, that's a sucking chest wound. All you can do is cover it up and get rid of it. But getting right into the sources of the money are Fannie and Freddie and portfolio. But getting into exactly what you want to do with a mortgage and exactly what you want to do with your home and exactly what you want to do with the security of your family is, how do you choose a mortgage broker or banker, and what are your options? So we're going to have fun with this. I've been in the industry for 13 years now. I have personally helped over 600 individuals like you, families like you, purchase a home or refinance. 600 times I've personally brought people through the process. I've been with 2 separate companies in my career. The first one was Top Gun Mortgage, and that was from 1998 to 2004. Since 2004, I have had Garvens Group, which has evolved into Colorado Springs Home Mortgage Loans, which is also evolved into a separate specialty brands, VALoanSource.com for military veteran-specific loans. But that's the experience that I bring to the table. I certainly don't claim to be smarter than you. I certainly don't claim that all of this information is going to be digested by you. You always can go right into the archives and listen to this show again during the week. I mean, it's the weekend now and you want to relax. So let's just tell some stories and have some fun. But know that you can come back to this. You can go to krdo.com, click on the radio tab, go down to the schedule on Saturday. You know when that is. And Sunday, you're listening now. And click on the Jay Garvens Show, and you can listen to my archive and go through this information again. You also can call me directly at 330-1457. I'll help you with the mortgage. I do want to remind you that government loans are at 3.75% on a 30-year fix with no origination. We know right now that conventional loans are as low as 4% with no origination and less than $1,500 in closing fees. We know that origination and closing fees are an important part of it, but if you're also buying or refinancing an investment property, you really are in the mid-4s. So if you have an interest rate that's higher than 4.5% on a government loan, 5% on a conventional, and 5.5% on an investment property, you need to stop and call me right away. Write down my number, 330-1457. If you'd rather, just email me or go to a written communication dialogue, go to my website, our website, Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com, all spelled out, Colorado Springs Home Mortgage Loans, that's plural. Look for me, Jay Garvens. You'll see the Jay Garvens Show tab. You fill out the information and get a hold of me. But some of the things that are very, very great about choosing a mortgage broker and banker, and I want you to know my experience, is in my eyes, from experience over the last 600 clients, this is some of the things that people look for. And I've had some crazy clients in the past. I had one client, her name was Faith, and I'm going to tell you this story. She was refinancing her house in Manitou, and I'm telling you, Manitou is the funniest place in the world to refinance or purchase a home because it's just crazy. I mean, the surveying alone, just the land, literally, we're doing appraisals on properties out of Manitou, and they literally say this property line is from this rock to this 80-year-old stump and to the corner of this knoll. I mean, there's no measurements. There's no quadrants. It's just like from the cow to the brick to the rock. And it is crazy. But Faith, this client, she was as cute as a button, someone who I really respect, a single gal in her retirement years, had a beautiful historical house. But she had 2 sub-property cottages on her land. And it was crazy. And it was early in my career, the first 5 years. And I literally was out there with a hammer, helping her put the siding on one of the structures to make it look good, putting the camera angles just perfect. We were raking leaves and, because the appraisal makes a difference. So you want to get someone to work with that is willing to get their hands dirty, is willing to get down in the trenches with you. And that's one of the qualities that I'm going to touch on. And we have a lot of funny stories. And in the future, always stay tuned. You always can get a hold of me personally if you want to refinance and start the process, because I would love to earn your business. You can call me at 330-1457. You're not going to talk to a telemarketer. You'll talk to me personally, the owner of the company. There are other very popular owners of companies in town that will, tell you if you have a compliment, do whatever. If you have a problem, call me. But you'll never talk to the owner or the individual in the loan process. With me, I am the owner of the company. I will talk to you personally. I take your calls. I don't screen them. If you miss me, you leave a message and you're going to get a call back from me personally. But some of the biggest considerations in choosing a mortgage broker or banker, from my experience, is really these 4 options. You have pricing, What are the interest rates and how expensive is your company? What are your products? What do you guys offer? What do you suggest I do in the variety of products? The service, expanding into your reputation, your credibility, and then sometimes, and I think most importantly, at times, is location. So let's look into each one of those individually. First of all, I grew up in the Midwest. One of the few mortgage brokers that you will meet that does not believe in mortgages. I do not believe in debt. Even that I own a finance company. My wife, Marlo, has me and her going through a Dave Ramsey Financial Peace class. That's actually sponsored by Rock Family Church off of Rangewood. Pastor Dean Hawk believes finances are extremely important. Marlo and I do. And my point is I own a finance company and I'm still going through a financial class. But it's always good measure to at least get pricing and options from 2 or more individuals. So pricing is really, really important. I hope any company you work with, you will check their pricing. I encourage you to check my pricing. Don't be a penny pincher, but make sure that individuals are giving you a competitive price, and that is important. And that's always followed up with a good faith estimate. And I am not afraid. All of my loan officers are licensed and veterans, which I'll go into. But we are very, very competitively priced, and you want to make sure that the company that you're working with is. Number 2 is the product and the variety. This is the biggest thing, because I'm going to get into this straight ahead about the comparison of products between a mortgage broker, which is what I am, working with you as a licensed individual through the NMLS system, the National Mortgage Licensing System, NMLS. Also, I am a LMO, a licensed mortgage officer by the state of Colorado. It's interesting that mortgage bankers are not licensed. Bada bing, bada boom. You walk into Wells Fargo, you walk into Ant Federal Credit Union, you walk into Chase, you walk into Bank of America, and those individuals are not licensed. How convenient that any nationally, federally regulated financial institution has no licensing requirements, but we as mortgage brokers do. That would be like if you went into a financial planner at Wells Fargo, they wouldn't be required to take their Series 6 and 7. But if you went to a private firm like LPL or Financial Innovation or any of those private financial planning firms, they would need to be licensed. It's a big hypocrisy, but the variety of products is just interesting because a broker, we go ahead and have license with anywhere from 2 to 20 separate investors. So I'm licensed with Wells Fargo and can offer all their products, but also I'm licensed with other companies such as Stearns, such as 360 Mortgage, such as Franklin American, such as MetLife before they went out of business. Several different product lines. Servicing is probably the most important and goes right in line with location. There's a lot of internet individual companies out there, and you have a choice to work with someone over the phone or in person, and you have the option to call eLoans, which is kind of like a marketing gather system, and they'll pawn you off to the individual that pays for that referral, or you can go directly to a company. But one of the things I'm going to go into right now is in the product and the variety and servicing, I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit of the difference between mortgage bankers and mortgage brokers. And anytime during this, there's no doubt at all that I want to earn your business. I believe that we have a very credible company. I personally will help you have licensed mortgage brokers, but I also really believe in the mortgage broker licensing system more so than the bank. I think a bank is a great place to deposit your money, earn a little bit of interest, and get installment and maybe even auto loans. But for mortgage products, a mortgage broker will give you far more variety. It's the difference between, say, buying or going for a mutual fund than going right into a company and buying one common stock. Because here's how it is. Between bankers and brokers, it's not a level playing field. Bankers have no licensing requirement at all. With brokers, you have a variety of products. We have different investors, like I said, 2 to 20 separate investors. And banks have access to those other products, but they're always promoting theirs. And banks are great places, but so is Perkins Dodge. But if you go onto Perkins Dodge, you really want to expect to buy a Dodge. Don't expect to buy a Toyota. They might say they offer it. Will Perkins is a great guy. He has an amazing company. But if you go into a bank, you need to expect to be pushed into their product instead of looking at your needs and then putting you into one of 6 or 7 investor products from a choice like a broker has. And also, we're going to get into the servicing, the limited experience as opposed to the experience. But here is the biggest thing, is that you just have options. That's what's great about United States. You do have options in choosing any mortgage broker, any mortgage banker. It does, like I say, come down to pricing, product, service, and location. Straight ahead, we're going to get more into that. I'm really going to get into the experience, tell a couple more stories. You can always contact me personally, Jay Garvens, at Jay Garvens Show, 330-1457, 330-1457. You're listening to Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio. We'll be back after the break.
The Jay Garvens Show, Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio, 105.5 FM and 1240 AM. And now here's your host, Jay Garvens.
Okay, Jay Garvens here, back with you. You're listening to Home Mortgage Talk, the Jay Garvens Show on KRDO News Radio. And we've been talking today about choosing a mortgage broker and banker. We're going to tell some stories here. We're talking about different things to consider. Always during this, know that I'm here personally for you. I am the owner of Colorado Springs Home Mortgage Loans. Have been in the industry for 13 plus years. I've personally helped over 600 people. I don't say that to brag. You can work as an engineer or a soldier or a school teacher. And if you have 13 years or more or whatever in your career, I know that you are an expert. I just want you to know that you can always contact me directly at my cell phone, 330-1457, 330-1457. You also can listen to this show. Go back and listen to portions of it right at Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. That's plural. Fill out information on the right-hand side of the sheet or just click on the radio tab and listen to this recent show or any archives. But some of the considerations that we're talking about here in choosing a mortgage broker or banker are, of course, what their pricing is, what their product and variety is, how they serve you personally, what's their reputation, do they have credibility, and, of course, their location. Are they locally owned? Are they right here where you and your spouse or you personally can come and meet me or meet us or meet them? And I'm going to finish up this segment with questions you want to ask me or other mortgage brokers or bankers. There is a difference. Promoting different products, I touched on that. Me personally, as a broker, the owner broker of a company, mine is Colorado Springs Home Mortgage Loans. I am licensed, all of my financials and history and reputation, with over 10 separate investors. So if you bank at Wells Fargo, I am totally licensed as a premier Tier 1 broker with Wells Fargo in VA, FHA, conventional transactions, everything. I can personally get you any product that walking through the doors of Wells Fargo would. That would be just the same as walking through Wells Fargo. What Wells Fargo can't offer you when you walk through the door is any one of the Chase products or any one of the Stearns mortgage products or any one of the American Franklin products, or quite honestly, until last week, one of the home savings products. People don't know mortgage companies, monster companies, are still going out of business. As of last month, MetLife ceases to exist, and I can go get licensed. So no more than you would expect Perkins Dodge and Will Perkins and his family to give you the option to buy a Toyota on their lot. They're going to sell you a Dodge, and they're very straightforward about it. Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo is going to offer you a Chase, a Bank of America, or Wells Fargo product, period. If you don't fit into their product, they're going to do one of two things. Either kindly refer you to someone else like me, or they're going to shove you into their product. You guess. You tell me what they're going to do. Are they going to send you out the door, or are they going to convince you into their product no different than an auto dealer would convince you into their auto? Another thing, too, a difference between bankers and brokers. Bankers are very nice because they're very convenient. You know where they are, and that's a very, very positive. And brokers, you really have to check our reputation. And I really believe you do that by meeting with them, meeting with me, meeting with anybody. You do the same with a banker. But the difference is because banking of mortgages has a certain amount of appeal right away. You know where Wells Fargo is. You already pay the mortgage. You know where Bank of America is. You walk in and you get a mortgage. Because of that fact, the marketing aspect of it, they can more easily recruit a mortgage banker, which means they're going to pay them less, which means you are going to get a lower quality, less experienced individual for the most part. I'm not talking about everybody, but it is true that a mortgage banker has to help like 10 to 30 people a month just to make their paycheck, where a mortgage broker maybe has to help 5 to 10 people max. So it's a very clear depiction on what your level of service is going to be. Your average experience, and this is right statistically, is 1 to 3 years in the mortgage industry if you are a banker, where the average mortgage broker has been in the industry 7 to 11 years. So there's just the experience that you have. So there's a little bit of the difference between the bankers and brokers. Bankers are not licensed. Brokers are. Bankers are more conveniently located than brokers. Bankers have to do more transactions, which means their customer service is affected. And then I think most importantly, their product lines. Banks' product lines are limited. Brokers are just that. They broker different investor services and are unlimited. But here's some of the things you want to ask individuals right away. And this is a funny story about this. Back before we were licensed, I got into the industry in 98. But about 2002, 2003, I mean, mortgage was unbelievably experienced. And it seemed like every financial planner, every salesmen, be them shoe salesmen or window salesmen, were becoming mortgage brokers. There was no licensing. If you basically had a pen in your hand and a warm seat, you were a mortgage broker. There was no documentation, and it was unbelievably crowded. It was like one of those Guinness Book of World Record shove fests into a phone booth. I mean, everybody was in the industry. But you should have seen in 2007 when the industry started to fall apart, they were dropping like flies. I mean, everybody was going back to their previous industry. No longer was it easy, and people had to earn their keep. Probably one of the most difficult things for me is staying consistent in the industry through the end of 2007, 2008, and through the middle of 2009. But what came of that was licensing. So as you're listening to this, you have the choice to work with a licensed individual. All mortgage brokers are licensed, and that's why if you have questions with your mortgage interest rate right now, if you're above 4.5% on your conventional loan, you should really call me right now directly at 330-1457. If you have a government loan above 4.5%, absolutely call me. Whether you want to purchase or you refinance, it's very important because government, FHA, and VA rates are as low as 3.75%. If you're an investment property owner or you're thinking about buying an investment property, it is important to give me a call directly and personally at 330-1457 because we can lower your payment and increase the security for your family. So straight ahead, we're going to finish up with the different considerations of choosing a mortgage broker and banker. What are your options? This is Jay Garvens, and you're listening to The Jay Garvens Show.
The Jay Garvens Show. Home Mortgage Talk on KRDO News Radio 105.5 FM and 1240 AM. And now here's your host, Jay Garvens.
Well, we're back, Southern Colorado. Jay Garvens Show. Love to be talking with you personally. Today we're just finishing up with choosing a mortgage broker and banker. What are your options? And most importantly, I want to share with you what I will offer you, what I can share with you and teach you. Most importantly, with me, like Dan Koshel, my producer, has encouraged me to share with you, is that you work with me personally as the owner of Colorado Springs Home Mortgage Loans. When I give you the number 330-1457, that's 330-1457, you are going to talk to me, Jay Garvens, not a telemarketer, not one of my staff members, not someone that I've marketed it out to, me personally. And I am not smarter than anybody else, but I do have expertise and experience in the mortgage industry of 13 years and of running a company and helping you personally, more than 600 mortgage clients, families, individuals like you, I've helped walk through and navigate the refinance process and also the purchase process. So, as I've said repeatedly throughout the show, if your interest rate on an investment property is higher than 5.5%, please call me immediately. If you have a conventional loan that's higher than 5%, you definitely want to call me personally or go directly to my website and fill out information. And also, if you have a government loan, an FHA, a VA, first-time home buyer government loan, and you're higher than 4.5%, you want to get a hold of me. Now, I've told you can call me at 330-1457, but also you can just go to Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com. That's Colorado Springs HomeMortgageLoans.com, all spelled out, and just fill out information on the right. Or you even can just click on the radio tab and listen to this show or any of the previous archive shows right there. And when you're in the middle of a busy weekend where you're trying to relax, you're doing your errands and stuff, don't feel pressured to have to get every single thing we're talking about. You can come back, you can listen to the show right at my website, or like I've told you before, krdo.com. Click on the radio tab on the upper menu and just go into the time schedule and see the Jay Garvens Show. Click on it and you'll be able to listen to anything. But with choosing a mortgage broker and mortgage banker, it's more than just walking through the door. We've talked about getting strong competitive pricing, and I encourage you to always get 2 or more comparative views. We're all going to be about the same rates, and you don't want to get that one individual that's skewed like a half a point or one full origination point off. If you are paying more than 4% on a mortgage right now, you need to competitively compare that individual with someone else because you might be paying too much. Secondly, you have products and you have options. Obviously, Will Perkins and Perkins Dodge is a great place to shop for a car. But if you go onto the Perkins lot, expect to leave with a Dodge. They'll say there's an option for a Toyota, but there really isn't. That's the same thing with a bank. If you walk through the doors of Bank of America, do not be surprised if you leave with a Bank of America product. They might tell you that they might not have the most competitive and can give you a Wells Fargo product, but they won't and they can't. No more than an auto dealer. Now, brokers were different. I don't care whether you want a Bank of America product, a Chase product, a Wells Fargo product. I'm licensed with 10 different individual investors. Also, remember licensing and servicing. Mortgage brokers. I am licensed both federally and through the state. Bankers are not. Bankers have no requirement to be licensed. I give the analogy of you buying a financial planning product. Imagine if you went into a bank and no one had to be licensed in securities in Series 6 and Series 7. But if you went out to a private institution like LLC or one of these private financial planning firms, you would. That's how it is with mortgage. I'm required to be licensed. All of my staff members, my processors were all required to be licensed, bonded, and have E&O insurance. You walk into a federal bank, you can have a dude, literally, with his head cap flipped backwards, 7 days experiencing the industry, put him in a suit and tie. You'd never be able to tell him the difference of me unless you ask him these questions. And these are the most important questions, is this. 1, when you talk to somebody, ask them. First one, these are funny. Crazy question. First question you should ask your mortgage broker, hey, do you own your house? I mean, come on. Can you imagine that? Getting help from someone who is a renter who can't even save and doesn't even own a house themselves. That's like going to a single dude to be marriage counseled. It's crazy. You want to talk to a pastor or a counselor that's married and been through what you've been through, that's the same thing. And I will help you personally with this. Feel free to call me directly at 330-1457, 330-1457. And yes, tomorrow my wife and I are buying a house. By the end of this month, I'll have 2 or 3 houses. I'm constantly buying and selling them because I believe in it. Number 2, ask an individual, how much experience do you have? Have you done 1 mortgage? Have you done 100 mortgages? What? 0 to 100 mortgage transactions, someone's a rookie. 100 to 300, they're established. Maybe 300 to 500 people they've helped as a pro. And you're really a master in the industry if you've helped 500 people or more. That is important. Experience does matter. Lastly, the company. Are they locally owned or not? I am a locally owned company. You have a relationship with me personally, and you can work with me personally through the whole process. Anybody and any one of my staff that you work with is going to be a homeowner. So I hope today all of these questions, comparing brokers and bankers and getting value out of who is helping you through the process, and I hope this has added value to your life because you're important to me. I'm Jay Garvens. I'm your friend. You can call me personally, 330-1457. I will always get back to you personally. I want to earn your business, and I want to build a friendship, and I'm going to finish with this. I always tell an individual when we first meet, I want our friendship to begin at the closing of your transaction, not end there. I'm Jay Garvens. You're listening to KRDO News Radio, Home Mortgage Talk. Have a great weekend.